What's up, guys? Dan here from Headwaters Kayak, and today we're geeking out on some kayaks. Check out this thing I just bought. You're looking at a double-hatched Scupper Pro from 1997. I just picked it up on Facebook Marketplace because you don't see these things in good working order anymore, and this one was fully intact. Such a cool piece of history, and I had to buy it because a few weeks ago we got our first batch of Scupper 14s in, and I really wanted to put these two boats side by side, see how they compared. I spent a ton of time in the Scupper Pro over the years. This is a really popular boat here in Northern California and Southern California for ocean fishing, for diving. And I thought it'd be fun to have the classic one, line it up next to the new one, and just kind of compare some features. So first, let's talk history lesson. The Scupper came about in, I think it was the mid-1970s, designed from Tim Neimer, who wanted to use it for going offshore, bringing tanks with him, using it as a diving platform. And it had a bunch of forms throughout its life, including the original Scupper and then the Scupper Pro. They call this one the Scupper Pro Dual Hatch, but they also have a Scupper Pro tank well. So if you ever see Scupper Pro TW, that's what that means. More of a traditional tank well. The divers would really like the tank well version because you could fit a tank right here in the back, whereas the double hatch gives you lots of access and storage to the inside. So if you're bringing camping gear, things like that, you know, it's more of like a traditional touring kayak. But for divers, the ease of being able to just throw their tanks in the back was what they wanted. This right here is how you know the model year. The last two digits will always tell you the story. So this one says 97, which means this kayak was built in 1997, which is about when the Scupper Pro came online. It was somewhere 94 or 95 when the first ones were produced. They've always been designed by Tim Neimer. You can see the sit on top, 808 kayaks. See it set up where you could add a rudder to it. This particular one has the extra strap on top. So if you wanted to add more gear and have a place to strap it down, you could. Let's go ahead and open this John up. Check that out. Two big bulb seals. I don't know if that's how they came stock or if this guy did it that I bought it from, but a bulb seal on the hatch as well as the boat itself. Another one up front. They're a little bit crispy, but they're still working, so we're going to keep them around. There it is. Big inside access to the boat. You could put your flippers in there, your dive gear, your rods, your spear gun. It all fit right down inside there. Looking at the cockpit, you see the classic Ocean Kayak molded in heel cups. So you just find a spot that worked for your heels and get close enough. They also would have the ability to add, like if you ran the rudder, you'd put a foot pedal on there with a sliding rudder foot pedal. The only downside of that is you still have the heel cup. So you're still kind of only locked into a few different positions. Little flat mount here, so if you wanted to add a fish finder, that was a spot you could do that too. And it looked like at some point in its life, this kayak probably had one. And the overall profile of this kayak is really cool. It's called a fish form. And what that means, let's see if I can get a better angle at it here. And what that means is the widest part of the boat is up here in the front, like a fish. It's wider in the front and then tails off into the back, which is where the magic came in this kayak. This kayak would surf really well. So it had all that buoyancy up front. So when it was coming down a wave, the bow would slice in, it would stay nice, high and dry. And then the rest of the kayak would just track and fall in behind it. That was the magic of the Scupper. That's what made it different than all the other kayaks in its class. It wasn't the most forgiving, but it was fast, it was seaworthy, and it handled the surf really well. Underneath, you see the tried and true kind of 3 bulb design. It's got that center keel bulb, and then the bulbs out there on the chines, which made it a pretty stable kayak for how narrow it was. Now let's fast forward a little bit to the Swell Scupper 14, which just came out a few years ago. Also designed in part by Tim Neimer. This time Swell Watercraft, Jim Marsh and his crew had a lot of hands in the input of the design, so you can tell it's a lot more modern. But overall, it's the same idea, same profile. Nice rocker, bow to stern. You can see that. Still has plenty of bow volume up front. They did a huge front hatch, which gives you really easy access and storage. And I have had this thing out in waves and in chop, and it is a nice watertight hatch. You also see how low that they mounted these. So that really pushes the hatch down and pushes the seal down onto the boat. Just like the old Scupper, lots of storage inside. So if you wanted to bring your fins, if you wanted to bring camping gear, still has the same exact design ethos behind it. Moving our way back, I love this little addition. They did a nice cutout for your paddle stroke. So it narrows up the paddler station quite a bit. So if I'm looking at the top of this kayak, it feels quite a bit narrower compared to the old Scupper, simply by adding that little scallop on the edge of the cockpit there. Inside, you see they did away with the heel cups, which thankfully they did that. I'm a big fan of that. Now you just have the traditional adjustable foot pedal. They still have that center pillar, so you don't get as much water inside the cockpit when you're paddling. They also did little things like this. You can add another hatch here if you wanted to. If you wanted to add a camera mount or a fish finder, you can just slide it onto the track now, as opposed to having to drill holes. This one, they added a little hatch between your leg. You could, in theory, cut it out, but I like that it's just a small, it even says, okay, don't cut it. It says, do not remove. So they're suggesting to not remove it, because that does give you a low point in your boat where water could potentially seep in there and cause problems. Anyway, nice access between your legs there. The seat's a huge upgrade. You can see for the longest time, Ocean Kayak just did these little canvas clip-in seats. That's not the original one that came with it, but now they have this high back supportive one here. I also like how they did the handles in the center. So when I'm picking this thing up over my head, I got a good balanced place to grab it from. Behind the seat, see a spot for a couple of rod holders, another track here. Really big, generous tank well, and they kept it true to the core with the little cutout for a tank. That's where it got the name Tank Well, because it would actually fit a dive tank in there. That's pretty cool. Another spot if you wanted to add an additional hatch or access plate, there you could. And then just like on the old Scupper, you've got it set up here where it will take a rudder. Give you guys a look at the bottom of both these boats side by side. You can tell the new Scupper is a little bit narrower up in the bow. They have that similar kind of bulb hole design. But you see that they added kind of another layer right here that tapers back, and it has a little bit more defined keel. So it should track a little better than the old one. Maybe have a little more speed. It also has a little lower center of gravity because of the new one-way Scupper valves. So a little narrower, a little sleeker, but I have not paddled both side by side. So I will do that and share my thoughts with you. They also did little things like this, a little drag strip that's gonna save the end of the kayak from looking like this one here. Although this one still feels like it has a little bit of life left in it. It's not completely worn through. That's always what I check when I'm buying an old one. Is it soft? Is it mushy? This one also has a couple of extra scuppers. The old Scupper had 4, the new one has 6, and then they do the one-way Scupper valves in the cockpit. So that lowers the center of gravity of the cockpit. So really excited to be the Scupper Demo Center here in Northern California. And we're also gonna be doing some stuff down in Southern California as well. We've got a group of guys that wanna try this boat out. A couple of them are actually pre-sold. So we're gonna go down to Santa Barbara here in the next month or so. We're gonna bring the 12, we're gonna bring the 14. And I think I'm gonna bring the Classic too, and just go out and paddle with some folks. A lot of these guys have the Classic, have been using it for years, and are just looking for the more modern version. So it'd be lots of fun to connect with them, get some stories, and get these boats on the water where they belong. So thanks so much for hanging out and talking boats with me today. If you have any questions, do me a favor, leave them in the comments. And until next time, this is Dan wishing you happy paddling.